Yo, what's going on, people? It is King Ty next, and I'm going to be. How should I say this? Basically, I'm on the Omega Creeds channel, so yeah. Um, Besides that, I also have to say that what I'm going to be reading for you guys right now, it's sort of a what if, but also a fan fiction that I wrote like a year ago. Well, a year or two ago, and I'm trying to bring this back. But in order to bring this back, I'm trying to also add it to like a what if, or like, you know what? Let me stop wasting time. Let's just get on with the what if slash fan fiction. It was a day like no other. The Marines were rushing out of their base, getting on their battleships, trying to capture someone. The person they were trying to capture was wearing a straw hat, a tattered white suit, and had black hair. He had a solemn look on his face while sailing away on a boat. The Marine forces were trying to capture the one known as Monkey D. Luffy, ex-Marine. "Get the boy," one of the Marine vice admirals yelled. Cannonballs were shot at Luffy, who used his abilities to force the cannonballs back at the Marines, piercing through some of the ships coming at him. "Don't take the boy lightly. This is ex-Marine Rear Admiral Monkey D. Luffy. We're facing men. His position is the equivalent of Marine Headquarters Rear Admirals," another Vice Admiral yelled. The Marines were shooting at the straw hat wearing boy that heard this new set of information, widened their eyes to the point they could be compared to saucer plates. They were unaware of the fact that this boy they were attacking had enough strength to be of such a position. It was madness in their eyes. They thought it was excessive to have 3 vice admirals, each leading 2 battleships, only to chase after one guy in a dinghy, and it was hard to believe he was of such a rank in the Marines. That was until he sunk half of the Marine ships by sending the cannonballs right back at them. "How is he doing this?" one Marine cried out. The last Vice Admiral, who had yet to speak, grumbled before speaking up. "The boy, he ate a devil fruit, and not just any devil fruit either. He ate a Logia devil fruit, the Kazi no Mi. He's an air human." The Marine higher up stared coldly at Luffy as he was drifting away. He growled in anger before requesting for reinforcements. "The boy may be able to force cannonballs back at us, but he's only human. He can't continue doing this for long." Several more ships started appearing, shooting several cannonballs, so many that it was beginning to become overwhelming for the Straw Hat. Luffy grit his teeth in frustration. "Stupid Marines," he muttered to himself. The sea grew vicious, and it was swaying his dinghy from side to side with risk of him falling over. He was hanging on for dear life while reflecting the rapid cannonball fire that was trying to sink his ship. "Dang it, there's too many ships. I won't be able to shake them off unless..." He could feel drops of rain hitting his face. He heard lightning and thunder. He smirked when he saw the Vice Admirals had looks of fear on their faces when they heard the thunder. "Oh no," one Marine said. "Oh yes." Luffy grinned like a madman. Kazi cyclone." Luffy raised one of his arms into the sky, directing it at the Marines, and it formed into rotating wind before slashing it downwards. At first it was a small rotation of wind before it began to grow bigger and was heading towards the Marines. "Retreat!" one of the Vice Admirals yelled. The Marines jumped into small rowboats, trying to get away from the quickly approaching tornado that was growing immensely in size. The Marine ships were destroyed from the tornado. Luffy watched his wake and took a deep breath before sighing from exhaustion. I hate using that move. Always leaves me with a headache, Luffy muttered to himself. Luffy created currents that helped him sail. He grit his teeth in pain. He had a serious headache from creating that tornado, and he had plans of sailing back to the East Blue, but he wanted to see the closest person he had to a mother, Makino. He could only imagine how everything would go down at the bar. It's been too long since he's seen her. Not only that, but he would have to explain to her everything that happened with the Marines. He knew that when it came to the East Blue, they don't get the news as quickly as the other oceans. If he continued at the pace he was sailing now, he would be able to make it to the East Blue perhaps the day before the newspapers showed up at the bar. After he explained everything that he discovered about the Marines and the world government in general, then he would have to leave soon after. He knew he couldn't stay in the location for more than a couple of days because the world government would most definitely put a bounty on his head. There would be several bounty hunters after his head, and he planned to assemble a crew. What he planned on doing, he would need to assemble a strong enough crew. He planned to shake up the world government, and what better way to do that besides becoming the next pirate king? Luffy laughed quietly. Sure, he may have had a headache, but he couldn't just rest now. It was going to be quite a while before he could make it back to Fuchsia Village, and he had to keep the air currents going at this fast pace unless he wanted the Marines to catch up to him. He might as well think about all the plans he'd have for when he'd make it back. Sure, he'd assemble a crew, but he would need a ship first. He doubted this dinghy would fit more than 2 people, let alone a whole crew. He was going to probably assemble a ship himself, since he doubted anyone would sell him a ship with his status. Not like he could afford to buy a whole ship in the first place. He had no money on him. Once that was settled with, assembling his crewmates would also be a tedious task. He would need a strong, skilled swordsman in order to help fend off attacks alongside him. He would need a navigator since he was not the best at it. Sure, he had basic enough knowledge from his time in the Marines to travel from island to island, but in terms of being able to tell when there's going to be a storm and all that, he would need a far more skilled navigator than him. He'd need a cook for obvious reasons, a doctor also for obvious reasons, perhaps even a shipwright who was far better with ships than him. Sure, he knew a little about everything since his time in the Marines, but he was more of a jack of all trades, master of none. He needed all of these essentials before he could take on the world government and become Pirate King. He balled his hands up into fists, trying to cope with the headache he had it right now. Sure, he could think still, but that's only been because of multiple times when he's had to use the Cyclone move to get rid of several enemies. Oh, he couldn't wait to give the world government everything that's coming to them for all the atrocities they've done during their existence. Today was a slow day for Makino. There wasn't that much business, so she was simply cleaning the glass cups used to serve to customers. She had to keep the place looking nice if she ever wanted returning customers and new ones recommended by her older customers. She sighed. Nothing eventful happened today. She wondered how Luffy was doing all the way across the seas serving the Marines. Knowing Luffy, he would probably be fighting bad guys or eating off all the Marine food supplies quite quickly. It put a smile on her face, remembering how Luffy acted while he still lived in Fuchsia Village. Oh, how she missed the boy. There was always this charm to him that made him a pleasure to be around. While Makino was reflecting on the good times, she had with Luffy. The doors to the bar swung open. In came several men. From the looks of it, they appeared to be mountain bandits. They seemed like the stereotypical ones too. This was going to be a pain. She put on a false smile and greeted the men. I'm sorry. Hello. How may I serve you gentlemen today? She asked politely. Well, my men and I are pretty thirsty. We were going to ask for 10 barrels of sake, but we may just have you instead. The lead bandit exclaimed. The bandits had wicked smiles on their faces as they began to approach her. Makino was backing away from the men and tried to make a run for it. She was fast, but not fast enough. The lead bandit grabbed Makino by her shirt collar and yanked her towards him. He reeked of alcohol, and the smell was suffocating to Makino. It was as if this man hadn't taken a bath since forever. Now, where do you think you're heading off to? He questioned her mockingly. The bandits began to group around her with plans of sharing her. Of course, the leader would get first. Hey, you should be glad. After this, you may even be bearing... I really hate myself for writing this. Be bearing Hoguma the bear's child for all we know, Hoguma stated. After hearing these words, Makino began to squirm even more, trying to break away from Hoguma's grip on her, but he began ripping at her clothes. She screamed with tears in her eyes as Hoguma was beginning to assert his dominance. Right before he could, though, a blast of air pressure hit him. The force behind it was so strong that it caused him to lose his grip on Makino and send Hoguma flying back. The bandits were shocked seeing their leader fly back like that and looked into the entrance in order to see if anyone was there. Sure enough, there was. A man standing at 6'2" was at the entrance. He was wearing a tattered white suit and a straw hat. Not even sandals he was wearing. He was barefoot. He had an angered look on his face, but he also showed signs of being tired and malnourishment, seeing as how he had bags under his eyes and his bones appeared to be very prominent on his face. They doubted this was the man who sent their captain flying. They had full confidence that it would be a piece of cake taking this guy down. Oh, how wrong they were. None of their hits connected, and instead they ended up harming each other. It was as if the man wasn't even there. A mirage, like they were in the desert and they were seeing things. Enough of this, the malnourished gent yelled. He grabbed one of the men by the head and crushed her under his grip, leaving a red stain on the floor and a lifeless body missing a head. The other men were shocked seeing this. Some of them even wanted to throw up after what they witnessed. He grabbed the sword out of the dead man and used it against the other men, slicing at their bodies. You could hear the screams of pain as their bodies were getting sliced by the man in the suit. By the time he was done, his suit was no longer white, but it was red with the blood of all the bandits. He was breathing heavily from exhaustion. He turned to see Hoguma get up and try to get to Makino, who was trying to flee the scene. He wasn't having any of that today. Soru, he whispered. He disappeared from his position and appeared in front of Hoguma, kicking him in the family jewels. The kick packed enough strength to shatter his balls. Hoguma screamed in pain before glaring at the one in front of him. Do you know who you just messed with? Hoguma threatened. Yeah. A man who is no longer able to produce testosterone. A man who will now have decreased sexual drive, problems with erections, and is now infertile. That means even if you were to ever find a woman who would want you, you would no longer be able to have any offspring to continue your legacy. I'll kill you. Oh gosh. I'll kill you. You've messed with the wrong person, boy. I am Hoguma the Bear. I am a wanted man worth 16 million berry. Newsflash. I'm a wanted man as well, and I've taken down men with more than quintuple that amount. He whispered. Yeah, that was a whisper. Fear was brought to Hoguma's eyes, especially after seeing the carcasses of his men. Impossible. I'll give you two choices. You can leave this village and never return, or I can kill you here, right now, and in the most painful way possible. Which do you choose? Haguma answered the question by running out of the bar as soon as he found an opening. The Straw Hat wearer smirked. Smart choice. He looked over to Makino and unbuttoned his suit. Oh no, Makino said to herself, thinking the worst. He took off his straw hat, leaving it on the counter and taking off the shirt he was wearing underneath the suit. It was crimson red. Makino, put this on. I can't stand to look at you with your current attire. By the way, it's Luffy. Hearing these words put a sense of relief to Makino as she gladly put on the shirt and found that it was incredibly stretchy to the point she could wear it as a sort of dress. It didn't feel wet or reek of blood either, which relieved her even more. I'm glad you came when you did, Luffy. I don't know if I could have escaped those wild men. She spoke in disgust. She made several plates of food for Luffy, knowing how he was when it came on to food. Even then, she doubted this would completely fill him up, looking at the condition of his body, although he was getting better. So, what brings you back to Fuchsia Village? I figured you'd be back with the Marines on a mission or something, or are you visiting? Luffy shook his head in response, causing Makino to raise an eyebrow. I can't stay here long, Makino. During my time with the Marines, I discovered how corrupt the world government is. That's why I defected. You did what? Makino yelled, laughing. What did I just say? Luffy was calm over the situation. I defected. I can no longer stand for the unjustness of the world government, so I defected from the Marines. I'm sure they either put a bounty on my head or they are trying to keep everything under tight wraps so nobody finds out. Anybody they find out has ties to me that aren't Gramps are probably going to have Marines knocking at their doorsteps as soon as possible, which is why I can't stay long. I just wanted to see you one last time, Makino. You've been the closest thing I've ever had to a mother. Luffy finished his food quickly and got up to leave. Oh, and before I leave, he put on a tactical skull mask to conceal his face and handed Makino a steampunk-designed pistol. To protect yourself from any others who would ever try to use you, since I won't be around to protect you if there is ever a next time. Luffy walked out of the bar with his straw hat on his head. He got some weird looks from some of the villagers, but they just shrugged him off as some weirdo. He looked at his small raft. If he wanted to become a pirate, he would need a much larger ship than this. This would have to do for now, though. He went to a nearby store getting some new clothes since he didn't want to continue smelling like blood the whole journey. He was now wearing an open white cardigan with long sleeves, black pants, and army boots that were in black and white camo. Of course, he had his straw hat on top of his head. He was still kinda hungry, but the less time he spent in Fuchsia Village, the better. He was also tired, but he could rest after he began gathering his crew. Right now, there was no time to waste. He got in his dinghy and forced the wind to send him somewhere else. Hopefully, a place where he could get another ship and restock on supplies. I'm gonna be honest. That's all I got for right now. That's all I'm going to record for right now, actually. That's what I should be saying. But besides that, I don't have much else to say. So remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe to the Omega Creed channel. If you guys also want to check out more of my content, be sure to type in like King Titan X on YouTube, or you can just check like the links in the description. I'll probably leave the link to my channel in the description, because if I try and do it in the comments, it's not gonna allow it for some reason. I don't know what else to say. I'll probably also leave like a Discord link, or like Prometheus can edit this or something. I don't really know what else to say. Like,